more than those. We're gonna tell you one delicious dish that is very popular among the public. And what you see is this golden dumpling. This is what the locals call Shaomai. So take a guess. What is this resembling? Some would say this is like a flower. Some may say this is just like a baozi. Well, this is quite different with the stuffings of dumplings in the south, where they put rice in it. But this Shaomai here, they put lamb here. So in this program today, we're going to give you a brief introduction of the Shaomai here, and we are also going to tell you more about the cuisine culture in Inner Mongolia. And Hohhot is located in the west of Inner Mongolia. It's only 400 kilometers away from Beijing. And so we are right now at the old town of Hohhot. This is the Yichuan district, and so Hohhot was built 400 years ago. So where we are right now, if you go further to the west, you will arrive at the Dajjal Temple. Dajjal Temple is located at the very center of Hohhot. So Shaomai is very popular among the ordinary folks in Hohhot. It also has a very long tradition. And here we have blanket, and here we have beads and Shaomai, and also lambs here. So Shaomai is ranked number 1 because it's easy to make and it's also very delicious. So this is the Shaomai Cultural Street. The locals built in 2016. It has gathered 16 of the most successful restaurants. But actually across Hohhot, we have more than 1,000 restaurants that sells Shaomai dumplings. So today we're going to select one very good restaurant from these 26 restaurants, and we're going to show you how Shaomai dumpling is made. So today we have with us Vice Chairman of the Inner Mongolia Association for Shaomai Dumpling, Mr. Wang. So Mr. Wang, say hello to our viewers. Good morning. I'm from the Shaomai Dumpling Association. My name is Wang Zhiqiang. Well, let me tell you, first and foremost, I grew up on this street and I own my own restaurant on this street. So just now we gave our viewers a brief introduction about the shape of the Shaomai dumpling. We told our viewers that this is a very traditional cuisine and it's very much favored by the locals here. And there are more than 1,000 restaurants of Shaomai dumpling in Hohhot. So this is a very representative street. So can you tell us what can we expect here on this street? So this is located at the very center of the downtown of the ancient town of Hohhot. So this is a street located on the tourism route of Hohhot. When you travel, you have to eat, and Shaomai dumpling is the most representative snack of Hohhot. It has many different restaurants. For example, in this street alone, we have 24. So that is why the locals call this street the Shaomai Street. Hohhot is a famous town for Shaomai dumplings, and Shaomai dumpling is the most famous delicious snack in Hohhot. So where's your restaurant? It's right over there, and it has been established for 12 years. So I grew up as a chef, and 2 days here I have been in this industry for 24 years. I love this job. I grew up here. This is like my home, and this is like a miniature of the city. So near this street we have a temple called Chongfu Temple, and when Emperor fought Gu Erdan, and on his return journey, he was actually living in Xiaomi Temple. So Xiaomi Temple is not small, so you should not judge the sites by its name. So there were a lot of Zhao temples at the time, and Emperor Kangxi lived in Chunfu Temple, which is one of the Xiaozhou temples. So a lot of the local residents at the time, they wanted to come to this place and have a look of the emperor, but when they came, they couldn't see the emperor because the emperor was guarded by layers and layers of security. So a lot of the local residents, and they say that the security of the emperor, they occupied half of the streets. So that is why this street is also called the Half Xiaozhou Street. So we have Xiaozhou Half Street, we also have Geliao Street, and also this is Wuchazi Street. And the Shaomai Street actually is one very large community, consists of all the streets that I have mentioned. Please come in. So here you can see that they have served some traditional snacks for us. These are some dim sums. So this is just one of the Shaomai dumplings. What I can tell you is that Shaomai dumplings restaurants, they were at the very beginning tea shops. So because it's very hot inside, you come in and you wouldn't see anything with glasses. So because this is a program about the cuisine in winter people tend to favor lamb. So I think it is very fitting for us to do such a program about lamb in winter. So according to Confucius, we have to eat the right cuisine at the proper season. So there is some science behind it. And when it reaches winter, we have to eat a lot of lamb, drink some lamb soup, because the weather is very cold. And here we have many different types of lamb dishes, for example, steamed lamb and fried lamb. But we also have Shaomai dumplings with lamb stuffing. In Inner Mongolia, people call the Shaomai dumpling a very hardcore dim sum. Why is it this way? Well, it's hardcore because it's meat early in the morning. People in the south, they may not accept that, but here we have no way. Well, is there truly no other options? Well, it's not exactly that. It's because people here, we just like lamb. This is what the land produces here, and as you might know that on the vast grassland of Inner Mongolia, we have nothing but lamb, and also it's super cold here and super dry in winter at this part of the country. And so in winter you have to eat those very greasy lamb. And if you look at China in general, in the south, the food is a lot more sweet, but in the north, it's a lot of meat. So we have to drink the tea first. So this is what we call the brick tea. So brick tea, why is it called brick tea? Well, this has a lot to do with its package shape. So it's pressurized to this shape, and well, if you have a taste, it may taste very bitter, and it's quite different from those teas from China South, but it feels very tough and rough. Well, but this is very very much resembling the characteristics of the Inner Mongolian people. And we may look very rough from the outside, but deep down in the bottom of our hearts, we are very gentle. And if you go to the south, you can see that all the food is very delicate. But in the north part of China, in Inner Mongolia, we don't care about the shapes. So we did a lot of homework before coming to this. So we heard that there are many different spellings for Shaomai, and so some call it Xiaomi, and some use some other characters. And also on this menu, you have many different spellings, and maybe can give us some introduction. And so this is the board for your association, and for example, this one here is using a different character in the name of Xiaomai. So why is such difference? Well, this is a long story, and we have to. Why don't we just sit down and have a talk? So Xiaomai today is written differently in Inner Mongolia, in Hohhot, and each and every Shaomai is written differently, but there is a reason for that. But in general, there are two reasons. Number one, in the past, Mandarin, or the standard pronunciation of Chinese, wasn't that prevalent. So when people speak the language, there are many different dialects. So how do you pronounce it in your local language, local accent? It's like a Xiaomai. In the other part of Hohhot city, and it's pronounced differently, but the older part of the town, because I grew up in an old town, and it's Xiaomai. So even in one city, there are three slightly different accents. Well, maybe that is the reason for the different spellings. Yes, even within a small area, there are different accents. Another reason is that in the past, there were only a limited number of the population that was educated, and before the founding of People's Republic of China, more than 90% of the people were not educated. So when people talk and pass the name to each other, there are many different spellings. Some would use a different word, but I think there are some rationale behind that. Because, for example, you have to use fire, you have to use some wheat flour, and you have to use some different words to just tell the very comprehensive meaning of this snack. So there is an explanation behind every spelling, and I think that the multiple spelling of this snack represents one part of the culture of Inner Mongolia, and this is just like the tradition of China. A gentleman can agree to disagree agreeably. So that is why even today there is no uniform name, uniform way of spelling. Yes. Well, this can tell you that this is truly a snack that comes from the general public, from the general mass. And if you look at the ancient documentary, we research into a very ancient record of the local museum. This is like the history book of the Hohhot, and it has some mentioning of Shaomai. It says that from the very beginning, the Shaomai snack is spelled differently in this city, and this was actually tracing back to Qing dynasty. So it's very interesting. And talking about Shaomai, so Shaomai restaurants were all originally tea shops. In the past, we had maybe more than 50 and 60 different types of tea to serve our clients, and there are many different representative teas from the past. So give us some introduction about the snacks we have on the table here. So let me go to this first, and this is a small cake. So this is one of the most representative local dim sums in Hohhot. Have a smell, please. So this is like a smell from a local seed oil, and it tastes very crispy, very sweet, very fragrant, very savory. And so this is just like the food oil. So this is quite different from the food oil made of beans. So this is the linseed oil, and so linseed oil in Chinese is called hu ma, and if there is the hu character in a fruit, it tells you that this is a food imported from the West. So today we are talking about the Silk Road again. In ancient Silk Road, a lot of the very delicious and savory food were imported to China along the Silk Road. So this is the taste from hundreds of years ago. So when we take a bite of this, we are actually having a taste of the history of this city. And this snack hasn't changed its shape or flavor even after hundreds of years. So this is very similar to those cakes that we see from a bread store. And this is a mixture of the linseed oil, the flour, and also sesame seeds. And they just need to make some shapes from the donuts and put it in an oven, and then you can get this kind of bread. In the ancient times, they had a lot of molds just to come up a shape like this. So what about this? So this is like a pancake. So is this using the linseed oil as well? Yes. So just take a look at the skin, and it's so crispy. And let me have a taste. So this is what we call the lu bean cake, and it has assorted stuffing. And so to eat the lu bean cake, there are three features, and you have to put it on a plate very lightly and also take it up very lightly, because it's very crispy. And also when you put it in your mouth, you have to do that very gently and lightly. If you use too much strength, you wouldn't eat it in a very elegant manner, because it's very crispy, and if you use too much strength, it doesn't look very good. So if you use too much strength, you will produce a lot of crumbs. So this is another very representative snack in Hohhot. Let's take a look at this one. So this is what we call the rose cake. So it's very soft, it's fluffy, and it's also very crispy. So if I tell you the features, then it's a very wet, crispy, fluffy. So if I break it open, you can see a lot of rose flower buds. So we're using a lot of rose juice when we were working on the donut. So here you have rose flour. Yes, we have rose flour since always. So this is just like the flour cake from China's south, but this one is a lot softer. Yes, and it's very wet, soft. It's not exactly crispy, and it's very sweet, and it's very savory, and this is giving you a lot of the taste of the rose flour. Now let's take a look at this one. So those we have just experienced are the dim sums that go along with the tea. In ancient times, at tea shops, and there are a lot of knowledge behind the dim sums and also behind the tea. So why the locals here like those food so much? Why they swam into this restaurant in the morning? Because in the eyes of the locals, it's not important to have Shaomai dumpling in the morning. What's important is that, in the past there is no media, but today we have social media, multimedia. But in the past there is no media, and so to get to know those latest news, where can I get those? Well, it's in a tea shop. So it's in a tea shop where the people get to know what is happening around themselves, what is taking place in the town. So in a tea house, people can obtain the latest knowledge and information. So it's not important for people to have Shaomai dumpling here. What's important is that people can obtain a lot of new information. So in a tea house or in a tea restaurant, you talk a lot of things that are happening around you, and a certain period of history, you cannot talk about certain topics. So that is why in a lot of the tea houses or tea restaurants, there is a board that writes, "Do not talk about politics." So this is very similar to Tea House, which is a work written by Lao She. So in ancient time, there is a thing that you can go to a tea house, a barber shop, but when you are at those places, before you make any comment, turn around your head and watch around, and play safe before you get yourself into trouble. So this is part of the culture that is related to Shaomai dumpling, and so we got to know some dim sums that can go along with the tea. But now let's get to the point. How is Shaomai dumpling made? And now let's get to the point, and let's go to the second floor and to take a detailed look. Alright, now we are gonna get into the kitchen. So we've seen some clients coming inside, and they are getting ready for the noontime. So this is one of the ways to cook Shaomai dumpling, and this is basically fried using a pan. So this is very delicious, and it smells very good. And you can see that it's very crispy, and the skin is just very golden. So we showed you the shape of this. We showed you the shape of Shaomai restaurants, and you have to be very careful. And it must be a very hot frying pan, and the oil is not in a very good temperature. So this is fried when the dumpling it's not cooked at all. So a lot of the people may think that the Xiaomai dumpling must be steamed first before it's fried. It's actually wrong. So in every frying pan, how many pieces of dumpling can you produce? Well, we can produce a dozen, and normally it takes 8 to 9 minutes before it's fully fried. So this is how you wrap up a Xiaomai dumpling. Super fast. First, you need to warm up the frying pan, which has to go with a lid, and it has to be flat. And so after that, you pour some oil in it, and then you put in the Xiaomai dumpling, and you have to frequently check the bottom of the Xiaomai dumpling, and just to make sure that they are carrying the same color. So because at different parts of the frying pan, the temperature is different, and you have to put the lid on. And another very important part is to pour some water on it. So you have to give it some water. Now you can see that it's in golden color. And now you're pouring a bowl of water in it, then put the lid on. And when the water is fully dried, then the Xiaomai dumpling is ready to be served. And it's roughly 9 to 10 minutes. Well, it depends. It depends on how many Xiaomai dumplings you put on a frying pan, and also it depends on the temperature of the frying pan. So how many guests can this serve? So here, well, let me give you more introduction, and let me tell you how this is made. So are you using the linseed oil? Exactly, I was using linseed oil. So to make a Xiaomai dumpling, you need to prepare all this. For 50 grams of Xiaomai dumpling, in ancient times when China was at the planned economy period, for 500 grams of donut, you can only come up of 8 Xiaomai dumplings. And there's a lot of measurements and mathematics in it. So a lot of people, when they come to Hohhot, they tend to order too much, a lot more than they could finish. So that is why the locals say that 20 grams of Xiaomai would make you full. And so you just told me that it's not the weight of flour, it's actually the weight of a donut. So as I just said, 50 grams of flour can produce 8 Xiaomai dumplings. So you can make some calculation how many can you finish at one meal. So these are the seasoning of the Xiaomai dumpling. So there are many different measurements in different cities, in Hohhot, in other places of Inner Mongolia, and even in the south, people are using different measurements. And so I can see this is the lamb. These are some of the seasoning in it. So this is the stuffing that you have fully prepared. So let me show you that all the ingredients that Xiaomai dumpling uses are put here on the table. And so I don't need to talk too much about this lamb of Inner Mongolia, and it has the best quality of lamb. But Inner Mongolia is such a vast land, and there are many different types of lamb. In the west we have the goats, in the east we have sheep. So there are many different goat types, in Inner Mongolia. And Hohhot is located in the central and a little bit to the west area of Inner Mongolia. We are very close to Hilingula grassland. So since ancient times, we have been using the lamb produced by the sheep nearby. And you have to use only the lamb from the legs. So why is that? Because the lamb here at this part of the sheep is very soft. When you eat it, it tastes very good and it's not very sour or dry. It doesn't taste any differently. And also, you can tell from this part of lamb, and there is a lot of red meat. And all you can see is lamb. There is no bones or other stuff. So this is hand cut, and we're not using any machines, because you have to get the flavor just right, and you cannot use any machines. And trust me, it tastes differently if you use the machine. And we have a lot of the seasonings, and so this is onion, green onion. So since ancient times, this is a place that produces onion, and it's very spicy, and it goes very well with the lamb, and it can offset the grace in the lamb, and it can also make the stuffing taste very fresh. So you have to use only the stem of the green onion. You cannot use any of the green onion leaves. You have to use the fresh onion. You cannot wait till the next day, and if you wait till the next day, the onion is going to give you a different flavor. Ginger is also very important. So to cook Shaomai dumpling, you have to use ginger. So the greatest difference between Shaomai and traditional dumpling is that for Shaomai dumpling we use a lot of ginger, and the ginger must be very granular. So this way you are eating ginger, but you cannot see any ginger, and the rest are some other condiments. We have pepper, salt, we have some pepper and some other seasonings here. So it's pretty simple actually. So we're not using any of the very popular seasonings that you can buy from the supermarket, and actually the best food doesn't use too much condiments. So in Inner Mongolia, whatever food you're talking about, we're not using a lot of ingredients. Most of the ingredients are from locally, and you don't need to put a lot of condiments in a food. And because we are mainly eating beef and lamb, and to offset the grease, we're using, of course, a lot of onion and ginger. And also, this is linseed oil, and this is the soul of this snack, because this is truly very delicious. And the locals here like linseed oil, but in other parts of China we are using peanuts oil, bean oil. In the southern part of China they are actually using rapeseed oil. So this is very much like rapeseed oil, but if you smell it, it's a lot more stronger than the rapeseed oil. So this is like the very fragrant oil. So this is linseed oil. It has been around for 2,000 years, and it was brought to China by Zhang Qian from 2,000 years ago, and it was only accepted in Inner Mongolia, because in Inner Mongolia we have a huge temperature difference between the morning and between the evening, and also in north part of Shanxi province, and also in Inner Mongolia people favor this linseed oil. and the same goes to Ningxia and Gansu provinces. And so these are the main sources of linseed oil. And here in Inner Mongolia, people cannot live their day without a linseed oil. So a lot of the viewers were very curious that to enjoy the Shaomai dumpling, we have the best lamb here. As you mentioned, it comes from the leg of the sheep. We have onion and ginger. We have pepper and salt. And we also have linseed oil. So what is the proportion of these ingredients? Just, disclose your recipe so that we can maybe DIY, do it by ourselves. So for every 10 units of lamb, you have to use 7 units of onion, and for the rest, you can just go well. Then you can just improvise. And we Chinese don't cook by exact measurements, because every chef may produce a food with a different flavor, and this is totally up to you. And if you want it to be salty, add a lot more salt. And if you want it to taste spicy, put more pepper in it. So there is no rigid standard for measurement when it comes to cooking. So especially when we are talking about Shaomai dumpling. So this is hinging upon your own flavor, and you want it to be strong, just putting a lot of condiments. And food is something that is also very much associated to culture. So how you are raised up, and so what kind of flavor that you like, and you can put a slight some of salt. So this is the hot pepper. So for 5 kilos of lamb, I just need to put this much of pepper. So this one here is fennel, and you just need to put in this much fennel in it. And so tell me something about the skin of the Shaomai dumpling. Well, I can cook one Shaomai. I can wrap up one Shaomai here, and when it is fully cooked, I can give you more introduction. And so it has to be very light, but when it is fully wrapped, it is in corn pouch shape. And so you have to be very careful with the skin. And if you're not using the perfect flour, you cannot put it in your hand, and it would be sticky. So this is so thin. This is as thin as the piece of paper, and you can hand it up, and it's not breaking because we're using the best flour. In China, there are many different types of flour. There are basically 2 types, and the first one is very elastic. It's very tenacious. So for Shaomai dumpling, we have to use this very tenacious flour. And for the other type of flour, it can go along with those mooncakes cakes and steamed buns. And so Bayanor can produce the best flavor with a high level of tenacity. So now I'm gonna put the stuffing in the skin, and it's super easy. You just need to hold the skin with your left hand, and now you can use this spoon, and this is actually made of a piece of bone from the cow. So I can tell this has been used for quite a number of years. So this is the spoon that you use to take the stuffing, put the stuffing on the skin. So if you use this kind of spoon, it can save a lot of stuffing. So you can understand it as a corporate grade. And so the reason why people use this is to put less stuffing in it. But I personally disagree with this kind of explanation, and that is why I never save the ingredients. Well, make it nice and slow, and let's take a very close look at how you seal the Xiaomi dumpling. So it's super easy. You just need to wrap it up from the very top, and when it reaches the top part of the dumpling, you just need to give it a little bit strength, but don't be too hard, and just do it very gently, just like this. Do you want to have a try? Well, let me have a try. Well, let me wash my hands first. So it's super easy to make Xiaomi dumplings, and right now we have very advanced logistics system with SF delivery service and many other delivery services. We can mail the Xiaomi dumpling to places all across China. And if you are from Hohhot and if you are working in other places of the country, you can simply place an order online and we can mail it to you, and it will arrive at your doorstep maybe the next day, and it will taste exactly the same as if you are in Hohhot. And it's super easy to make Xiaomi dumplings, and it's a lot easier than making ordinary dumplings at home. So because I never know how to make dumplings, and so that is why I believe it would be super difficult for me today. And alright, so you just need to put the skin on your left hand, and now use the right hand to take some stuffing in it. So you can decide how much stuffing you put in the skin. Alright, like this, and give it a shake so that it moves to the other side. Alright, you can use both hands, squeeze it a little bit. Very good. Maybe I didn't do it properly, and can I try another one? Of course. So how many stuffing do you have to make every day? Well, at the best time we can sell 10 kilos. Well, that's enough. Just like this. Perfect. Will it leak? No. So the skins here, they won't get sticky. No, it won't, because it's made of some special flour. And to make the skin, we have one particular tool. We have a hammer, actually, to work on the donut, and you have to use the hammer to roll the donut very flat. And what can you show it to us? Well, we have outsourced this part of the job to a third party, so that's why very sadly you won't be able to see that. So people say that there are 36 wrinkles on the Shaomai dumpling. Is that correct? Well, it's not exactly correct, and we never counted how many wrinkles you have on the surface of the Shaomai dumpling. So this is very fast. How fast can you go? Well, I haven't truly calculated. And how many can you make in 1 minute? Well, you can make some counts. I think in every 2 to 3 seconds you can produce one Shaomai dumpling. So truly this is very fast, 2 to 3 seconds for each Shaomai dumpling. So in every bamboo steamer we have 8 Shaomai dumplings. So it's super easy, and now let's take a look how it is fried. So maybe we can steam this one. And if you steam it, it may take 10 minutes. And the precondition is that you have to have very good fire. Alright, in 10 minutes we'll be able to enjoy this. So alright, we just need to go downstairs and wait for like 10 minutes. Alright, we can sit down and continue with the talk. So you have been running this restaurant for 12 years. So do you have any branch stores? No, I don't have any branch stores. I don't have any franchise stores. I just want to do this small restaurant because this is my personal understanding, because this is for people's breakfast. If you're talking about breakfast, you cannot let your guests spend too much money, and if it's 10 yuan, 12 yuan, that's okay. And if you open a lot of branch restaurants, the cost goes up, and then the price will definitely go up. So gradually it will not work. So from the perspective of scale economy, it has to be small. So when we eat Shaomai dumpling, what kind of seasoning, what kind of snack can go along with the Shaomai dumpling? In Shaomai, in Hohhot, Shaomai is not just Shaomai dumpling. It has to go along with certain things. First, vinegar. So this is the vinegar produced from Shanxi province, because 90% of the Han people in Inner Mongolia were migrated from Shanxi province. So that is why we are still celebrating the lifestyle of northern part of Shanxi province. So we cannot go without vinegar, and it has to be this vinegar from Shanxi, and it goes through a very lengthy process in making, and it tastes very sour, but it's not this shallow or superficial sour, and it has to be very deep and profound, and it has to be sour to the right extent, and it can also make the food taste very fresh. Well, why don't you make some sauce while we wait for the Shaomai dumpling. So this is the vinegar from Shanxi province. This is the chopstick. So let me first pour some vinegar into the plate, and then you have to use the pepper from Tuxian County. And Tuxian is a county from Inner Mongolia that's sits beside the Yellow River, and so this pepper is very famous. Well, let me tell you the 4 features of the Tuo County pepper. So Tuo County sits at the back of the Yellow River, so it has this yellow dirt from the Yellow River, and also it has the longest hours of sunshine, and throughout 1 year it has more than 2,200 hours of sunshine, and also it features drastic temperature difference in the morning and in the evening, and also it's located at the 40th degree north in terms of latitude. And if you put all these 4 elements together, that will give you the most ideal place for the plantation of pepper. So it's located very ideally in a very good place, and they are also using one particular type of pepper type, and it's very greasy, but it's not that spicy. So that is very fitting to our taste with pepper, and we like pepper, but we don't want it to be very spicy, and it's not very hot and not very dry. Alright, now let's take a look at the pepper from Tuo County. So we have to stir it a little bit, and there's no proportion that you need to pay particular attention to. And so bear in mind, this is now very spicy. And let me take a sip. So in addition to the pepper and the vinegar, you have to take some brick tea. And I told you we are mainly relying on beef and lamb, so it's a lot of fat and grease that we take in. So the brick tea can offset the grease and fats, and it can also help with your digestion. Secondly, we don't take in a lot of vegetables, so that is why we are actually in lack of vitamin. But this tea can bring a lot of the vitamin to your body and a lot of the macro elements. So this is very healthy. And for years we have been taking brick tea while we eat the Shaomai dumpling. So the brick tea is one perfect drink to go along with the Shaomai dumpling. And so let me pour some tea water into the pot. So for this much of the tea, you can have 3 to 4 parts of the tea water, and it's very thick, very strong, and it's quite different from the dragon well tea from Hangzhou. I also need to talk a little bit about the water here. So this is the water from Usutu. So tell us about the water from Usutu. So in Hohhot, as I just told you, at the very beginning, most of the Shaomai dumpling restaurants were tea houses. In ancient times, the old town, the best tea house of the old town, they were located beside Yuquan Well. So Yuquan Well has the best water that this city could possibly offer. So this is where we are located at, and this is also why we named the street Yiquan Street. And there was a legendary story that when Emperor Qianxi arrived at Yiquan City, they just fixed the horse there, so people believe that this well came from the kick of the horse of the emperor. So because the Yiquan well has the best water, and that is why a lot of the tea house owners are using the water from the Yiquan well. Yiquan in plain Chinese is called Zhiden well. We have another place, Usutu, and it's in Mongolian language. In Mongolian, it means place with water. And right now, if you go to Usutu, you can still collect the best quality of water. So that's why each and every morning I just bring a lot of bottles and go to Usutu and bring back a lot of water. So we are now tasting the water from Usutu, and it's super fresh. So this is a little bit like red wine, just jokingly, just joking here. And so now let me talk a little bit about brick tea. And brick tea is a name for this kind of particular type of tea. It has many different smaller types actually, and if you squeeze the tea leaves into a shape of brick, you can call it brick tea, but it has many different types. For example, fresh brick, dark brick, brown brick, green brick. So is this a local tea from Inner Mongolia? No, in Inner Mongolia we drink tea, but we don't produce tea locally. I think 99.99% of the brick tea we drink is fresh brick tea. The most distinct feature of the fresh green tea is that it's very soft and tastes very sweet. And we don't like the black brick tea because that's too strong, too thick. We only drink this fresh brick tea. So the milk tea that the locals drink here also uses this particular type of tea, and it's produced from Chibi city of Hubei province. And Chibi is where the historic battle took place, and they have a town called Yanglongdong. So Yanglongdong produces dozens of different types of tea.